the end of the century, Christopher completed a test at school that a genius physicist had finished in 3 days. He amazed all the teachers by finishing it in just a few hours. His sister Michelle said that with this intelligence, he could start university early, but Christopher didn't want that. After school, a soldier notices the t-shirt he's wearing with a cartoon robot print reminds him of the upcoming war and sternly warns him. The robot on the t-shirt is Cosmo. Cosmo. He's the main character of a cartoon series that was once very popular. However, as anti-robot sentiment spread rapidly in the country, the show was taken off the air. Robots were first developed 35 years ago by Walt Disney for amusement parks. After that, they went into mass production and soon became the backbone of the global workforce. For years, robots worked without any problems, but over time they began to rebel against exploitation. Robots demanding their own rights organized protests all over the world under the leadership of Peanut. Negotiations fail and a war breaks out between humans and robots. Anyone found with a robot in their home is declared a criminal. The war goes badly for the humans. Sergeant John, appearing on television, openly explains the reason for this. Robots don't eat, don't sleep, and don't even blink. Humanity fights for 2 years, but loses every time. After a while, Ethan, the founder of Center Technologies, develops a device called the Neurocaster, which allows humans to connect their minds to drone bodies. Thanks to this technology, humans begin to fight robots on equal terms, and the war ends in just 2 weeks. Humans win, and Colonel Bradbury is declared the greatest hero of the war. Peanut, Clinton, and Eaton come together to sign the surrender agreement. At the same time, more than 6,000 robots are confined to the Forbidden Zone in the desert. Shortly after, Ethan releases a smaller, home-use version of the Neurocaster. This system splits the human mind, making it possible to both work and have fun at the same time. 39 years later, Michelle is at home, trying to remove the tracking device from her ankle. But when Ted suddenly comes in using the Neurocaster, she has to hide her tools. Ted scolds her, saying that even if she ran away from previous foster families, he won't let her escape from here. Michelle, on the other hand, she points out Ted's pile of hoarded stuff and reminds him that taking things from the Forbidden Zone is illegal. Michelle then goes to school. She sees that the teacher's there again, wearing her own outfit. All students are forced to wear helmets. When Michelle refuses, she's sent to the principal's office. The principal sees in the file that Michelle has lost her entire family and attributes it to the war. Michelle is forced to tell the truth and explains that it was a car accident. The principal says that neurotherapy can make her forget everything for a few hours. Meanwhile, Michelle remembers a memory of playing on the beach with her sibling. That day, her sibling has a panic attack and Michelle calms them down. Despite this, Michelle still refuses to wear the helmet. That night, she dreams of the car accident in which her family died. When she opens her eyes in the hospital, there's a doctor by her side, but she can't remember his face. Back in the present, Michelle wakes up to a sound coming from outside. When she looks out the window, she sees a shadow moving in the yard. She grabs her flashlight and goes outside. She notices an eye reflected in a bottle. Then the table is knocked over and Michelle runs back into the house in fear. Inside, she tries to warn Ted, but Ted is completely immersed in the Neurocaster world. When the uninvited guest enters, Michelle hides under the bed. The intruder is a robot. It lifts the bed in a single motion and looks at Michelle with Cosmo's face. Michelle retreats to a corner and tries to communicate with Cosmo. Cosmo uses hand gestures to show that he's looking for her, but he can't speak. His head opens up and Michelle repairs the voice circuit, but Cosmo only has a few pre-recorded sentences left. Cosmo then takes the siblings' photo and keeps pointing at himself and Christopher. He tries to explain that they're the same person. Michelle doesn't believe this and forcefully takes the photo. Cosmo bumps into the shelves and is thrown to the ground. The noise wakes up Ted, and when he comes into the room, he comes face to face with Cosmo. Ted, he starts yelling, blaming Michelle for everything that happened. The argument escalates and he pushes Michelle onto the robot. When Cosmo makes the same hand gesture Christopher used to do in the past, Michelle is convinced. Then Cosmo throws Ted against the wall. An enraged Ted attacks with a golf club, but Cosmo breaks the club and throws Ted again. This time, Ted starts bleeding and runs to call the police. Michelle knocks him out with a taser. Michelle and Cosmo escape in Ted's car. Cosmo easily removes the tracking device from his ankle. Michelle doesn't know how to drive, but when Ted chases after them through the Neurocaster, she improvises and manages to escape. The next morning, the car breaks down because the tire's flat. It turns out the spare tire in the trunk is also broken. When Michelle asks a question, Cosmo tells her the truth. Christopher is alive and is controlling Cosmo remotely. When Michelle asks how to find her brother, Cosmo points to the sender company logo on a sign. A drive, Pepper, with his box and hand gestures, refers to a bespectacled doctor. At this, Michelle remembers the moment she opened her eyes in the hospital after the accident. A doctor? She clearly remembers Amherst's face. She's the one who told Christopher that he died in the hospital that day. Michelle opens the map and Cosmo points to the very center of the Forbidden Zone. They need a plan to enter such a dangerous place. And Michelle remembers the illegal items Ted has hidden away. In the trunk of the car, they find a box with the address of a P.O. box belonging to the sender company in New Mexico written on it. Thinking that this person might know a way into the Forbidden Zone, they decide to find them. Part of the journey is made by secretly boarding a train, and they cover the remaining distance on foot. In the evening, Michelle goes into a store to get some food. When she sees a truck approaching as she leaves, she grabs Cosmo by the arm and hides in an alley. It turns out that the truck driver is John. John opens the P.O. box they've been looking for and takes out a large amount of money from inside. Then a man using a Neurocaster arrives and asks John for a gun. But the customer suddenly points the gun at John and threatens to shoot him. At that moment, an electric shot is fired and the man's Neurocaster is disabled. The one who did this is John's robot partner Herman. As Herman carries the machine that fell to the ground, they discuss how to make use of its parts. While they're distracted, Michelle and Cosmo sneak into the back of the truck. At the same time, Bradbury finds Ted's abandoned car. The next day, the truck arrives at an old mine near the Forbidden Zone. As John and Herman carry the goods inside, they're unaware that Michelle and Cosmo are hiding inside a crate. While they're arguing about the missing cables, Michelle tries to sneak around. But when Cosmo accidentally activates a singing fish, their hiding spot is revealed. When they're surrounded, Michelle says all she wants is a guide to get into the Forbidden Zone. John doesn't believe her. At that moment, the elevator goes up. They realize someone is following them and hide. When the elevator comes back down, Bradbury steps out. Bradbury says the place is now under the control of the Robot Deactivation Task Force and demands that they surrender. John tries to explain the situation, but Bradbury recognizes him and says he's under arrest. Herman tries to attack with an electric beam, but Bradbury uses John as a shield. Bradbury opens fire, the mine takes heavy damage, and everyone hides again. When he corners the robots, Michelle appears and hits his arm with a fire extinguisher. But Bradbury smashes the extinguisher. As the room fills with smoke, Michelle turns off the lights. At that moment, the fish ornament starts singing again. Distracted, Bradbury is shot from behind by John. But the bullets don't harm his Neurocaster body. Bradbury breaks the gun and grabs John by the throat. Michelle and Cosmo surrender to save them. As Bradbury says Cosmo will be deactivated, Herman Winch drops his claw and grabs him. Everyone tries to jump onto the minecart and escape, but John finds the key too late and gives Bradbury time to catch up. Bradbury fires at the cart, trying to shoot Cosmo. Herman grabs the weapon again, and the two robots fight Bradbury together. Michelle pins Bradbury against the wall with a bulldozer. Rocks fall. Bradbury's trapped under the debris. As the mine starts to collapse, the group is forced to escape. Seeing his home destroyed, John shouts in anger at everything that's happened. He blames Michelle, but strange sounds coming from nearby silence him. The group hides in a cave and watches scavenger robots searching for parts to repair themselves. When John gets the chance, he comes out, disables the robot, and makes his way to his garage. There, he finds a van and a giant suit of armor that Herman used to make himself bigger. After a long argument, Michelle convinces John to help. Shortly after, Michelle, John, and Cosmo get into the van. Herman, on the other hand, gets inside the armor and carries the van as they move forward. When they enter the Forbidden Zone, Michelle sees the broken bodies of robots scattered on the ground. Along the way, John tells the story of how he met Herman. During the war, his unit is defeated and surrounded. Just as the robots are about to execute the soldiers, Herman sees John crying and instead of killing him, saves him. A few days later, Central drones find the two of them. Even though John tries to explain that Herman is good, no one listens. They're forced to run away in order to survive. At the same time, Ethan relives a memory about his deceased mother through the Neurocaster. However, the device malfunctions and shuts down. Ethan yells at the scientists, demanding to know what happened in the system. They explain that Christopher has escaped. If Christopher isn't found by Friday, the company will collapse. Desperate, Ethan meets Bradbury in the virtual world. Knowing that Cosmo is on Bradbury's hit list, he makes him an offer. He asks him to bring Cosmo to his own company instead of turning him over to the authorities. In the mine, Bradbury's neurocaster is reactivated. In the desert, the group discusses entering an abandoned mall to find food. Just then, a robot spots them and throws a refrigerator at them. The windows shatter. Herman tries to escape, but the robots hurl objects everywhere. Herman falls and the van flips over. The group is surrounded, captured, and taken into the mall. Inside is a robot community made up of different types, from entertainment robots to household appliances, all with their own order. Outside, behind the glass, a gigantic robot appears. Then Peanut shows up and apologizes for them being captured. He says the robots thought they were dangerous looters. When Michelle explains the situation, Peanut, doctor, he explains that Dr. Amherst wants Skinner. He says Amherst did a PhD on human-machine interaction, which is why he kicked him out. He doesn't know where the doctor is there. Michelle wants to continue her search, but John reminds her that the night is too dangerous and convinces her to wait until morning. When Michelle is alone, she remembers the last Christmas she spent with Christopher. She thinks about how little she saw him after he went to college, and she cries. Cosmo comforts her and puts on the cartoon the siblings used to watch together. Soon, other robots join them as well. This catches Peanut's attention. After everyone falls asleep, a mail carrier robot appears and asks about Christopher. Cosmo raises his head. The robot hands over a postcard that Dr. Amherst left for Cosmo. The card has an address on it, and it says that Amherst is waiting for him there. The address is in Raider territory, and it's impossible to enter without a plan. When Peanut hears this, he introduces them to a training robot designed to teach people how to fight raiders, but it keeps malfunctioning. At first, John thinks this won't work. However, he's impressed when the robot launches baseballs at high speed. In the morning, Bradbury forbidden. He reaches the area and watches the group from a distance. He notices that they set out in Peanut's car. They travel all day and arrive at an abandoned amusement park where the address is located at night. Michelle realizes someone is there when she sees lights on in one of the rides. Suddenly, a giant clown head starts moving. Creepy robots surround them. As the group runs away, they shoot at every robot that approaches. Peanut tries to communicate, but the robots only growl. When they reach the building where the lights are coming from, they realize the doors are fake. As the robots approach, they have no idea what to do. Just then, the entire park lights up. Music starts playing and flames shoot out from some of the statues. The robots retreat in fear. Then a hatch opens beneath the group and they all slide down into a secret tunnel. In an underground room, they finally find Amherst. When Cosmo shows the postcard, Amherst gets very excited. Michelle asks him to tell them what he knows about Unu, Eater, and Christopher. Amherst says that Christopher is at the Center Laboratories in Seattle. After the accident, Christopher underwent routine tests. The MRI results showed that he was not ordinary. They need him to win the war. That's why Amherst allowed Center to take Christopher and lied to Michelle, telling her he was dead. Then he turns on the computer and plays a video showing footage from the experiments. Christopher is in a coma, and it's believed to be permanent. To keep his brain functioning, he is connected to the Neurocast network. Dr. Amherst says he is not proud of this. However, he argues that they had no choice if they wanted to save the world. Otherwise, Christopher would just die in bed. 13 months after the experiment began, Christopher wakes up. Dr. Amherst wants to disconnect him from the system, but Ethan doesn't allow it and threatens to kill him if he tries. Upon this, Dr. Amherst decides to escape. Before leaving, he establishes a small connection between Christopher and the outside network and gives him the location of the mall. He thinks Christopher might find a new family among the robots. Michelle says that Christopher already has a family. John gets angry at this and punches Amherst. At that moment, Bradbury appears outside and blows up the tunnel entrance by shooting at it. Then he slides down but finds the room empty. The lights suddenly go out. Peanut jumps from behind and grabs Bradbury and slams it into an electric net. But Bradbury pushes Peanut away and escapes. Peanut pulls a hidden sword out of his cane, but Bradbury is very strong and takes him down. As the group tries to sneak away, a sudden noise makes them freeze in place. Soldier neurocasters appear in the air and land around the group. They demand that they surrender. The trainee robots launch balls at high speed, shattering the helmets of some soldiers. Watching everything through the cameras, Ethan orders the soldiers to capture Cosmo and, if necessary, kill everyone else. Cosmo throws a ball to distract one of the soldiers. Michelle sprays paint from behind. The soldier's propeller malfunctions and he crashes into the ceiling and falls. As another soldier tries to catch Michelle, Dr. Amherst shoots him and says she knows a way out. John and the robots. They neutralize the remaining soldiers with improvised weapons. In the underground room, Bradbury rips off Peanut's hat and tells him that he broke the deal and that whatever happens to his family will be his fault. At the same time, soldiers flood into the mall. Bradbury goes outside and fires randomly at the toys. Dr. Amherst tells everyone to run and heads up to Bradbury. He tries to call him down and says that if he wants, he can shoot him. Bradbury hesitates to kill another person, but Ethan takes control of a neurocaster and shoots Amherst. The doctor falls onto the debris and dies with a metal rod impaled in his body. This incident pushes Bradbury into a deep moral questioning. Michelle and Cosmo try to escape but are surrounded by soldiers. While one soldier pins Michelle to the ground, another grabs Cosmo and takes off. Bradbury shoots the neurocaster holding Michelle and tells her to go home. Then he also flies away from the area. The next morning, the group returns to the shopping mall. The place is turned into a ruin and most of the robots have been destroyed. At the same time, Cosmo is taken to the center's laboratories and reunited with Christopher's body. As Ethan establishes the connection, Bradbury realizes the truth. He realizes that Cosmo is not an ordinary robot and that he was sent to hunt down a child. He feels a great anger about this. Ethan reminds him that Christopher helped them win the war and argues that sacrifice is necessary for the progress of a species. At the shopping mall, John tells Michelle not to give up. He says that if she keeps fighting, he'll be by her side. Michelle examines Amherst's computer. On the computer, there are codes for exiting the Forbidden Zone, the location of the lab in Seattle, and information that if Christopher is disconnected, the entire neurocaster system, and therefore the company, will collapse. Just then, Peanut returns and reminds them that he signed an agreement to bring about peace. Michelle, however, says that the attack on the shopping mall has invalidated this agreement and changes her mind. They use abandoned trucks. John, Michelle, and the surviving robots leave the desert and set out for Seattle. Herman finds a new giant armor and starts throwing things at the central laboratories. Ethan sends in all the soldiers. As Herman and John escape, they draw the soldiers after them, giving Michelle a chance to enter the laboratory. John opens fire, and Herman hurls soldiers away with his giant hands. But a neurocaster blows itself up, and Herman's armor falls off. When a soldier pins John to the ground, Herman saves him by revealing there's a second suit of armor inside the first one. The escape continues. As the task force moves away, other robots join the fight. Bradbury watches all of this through the cameras. An enraged Ethan runs to his office, puts on a secret helmet, and joins the battle by controlling a special neurocaster. He disables most of the robots in a short time. In the main lab, Amherst's computer pretends to be an aggressive and unstable robot to help the scientists escape. Michelle confirms that her brother is alive, but she needs a neurocaster to be able to talk to him. At the same time, Bradbury goes outside and tells Peanut where Ethan is. Then Bradbury disconnects from the neurocaster and completely withdraws from the fight. When Michelle puts on the helmet, she finds herself in her last Christmas memory with Christopher. She tells him she wants to save him. Christopher, on the other hand, explains that his body is too weak and that he will die if the connection is severed. Christopher says he doesn't want to spend the rest of his life like this and asks his sister to disconnect him anyway. At the same time, Ethan destroys Herman's last armor as well. The little robot takes heavy damage. John runs to save him, but it's already too late. Meanwhile, Peanut finds Ethan and says he wants to renegotiate the deal. In the laboratory, Michelle refuses to disconnect him, not wanting to lose her brother again. Christopher, on the other hand, says he hasn't felt anything for years, that he can't be saved anymore, and reminds her that it's really their friends who need help. In tears, Michelle says goodbye to her brother. She returns to the real world and finally disconnects him. All neurocasters are deactivated at the same time. The robots celebrate their victory. John, however, is still sad about Herman. Just then, Herman's head opens up and a tiny robot comes out. Chaos erupts all over the world. All computers stop working. The news reveals Señor's experiments on a human child. Ethan is arrested. People start demanding the removal of the Forbidden Zone. In the desert, John and the robots help Michelle record a video. Michelle tells people to take off their helmets and start living in the world again. Meanwhile, Cosmo has been thrown high. But suddenly, its head moves.